With 0% finance on our Seed, Stonic and Sportage models, you know you'll get an unbeatable deal at your local Kia dealer. But as well as great finance deals, you'll get something else as well. The reassurance of knowing that wherever the next 7 years bring you, Kia has you covered. The Kia 7-year warranty, quality redefined. For more, visit kia.com. Lending criteria and terms and conditions apply.
Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for Wednesday, February 27th, soccer edition with Nick Borrman. Nick, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, Drew. Happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. We got a full slate of MLS here. We want to hit on with the MLS season starting this weekend. Is that how it goes?
Yep, starts this Saturday, and we got games all the way through end of October. So looking forward to it.
All right, man. And you've been good in soccer, where you got your MLS special up for the 1 month for just $99. Check it out at sportsmemo.com on Nick's homepage. And first game up here Saturday, Toronto at Philadelphia. Looks like Philadelphia is a half a goal favorite here, 0.5. Total of 2.75. How would you look to bet this top of the card matchup?
All right, so first game of the season, Toronto. They missed the playoffs last year, finishing 9th in the East. This year I got them projected to be a little bit better, somewhere between 6th and 8th place, battling for that last playoff spot. Big news for them is they lost Sebastian Giovinco, who scored 68 goals for them over the last 4 seasons. And also Victor Vasquez, who was a great setup man. So they're going to have to deal with those two departures and trying to get goals without them. Josie Altidore, Michael Bradley are the two big names that have stayed with the team. So Altidore is actually going to be missing this game, so that's big news for this particular matchup. Toronto was just bad on the road last year, and they struggled defensively all season long. So they're focused on conceding less goals this year, and that's what they're going to need to do with the loss of some offense up front. So Philly, they made the playoffs last year. They finished 6th in the East, clinched the last spot. They were eliminated there in the first round. I think they're going to be similar, maybe slightly better, somewhere between 4th and 6th place in the East this year. A couple of key departures for them are they traded their forward CJ Sapong to Chicago. He was a regular in the starting 11 for them the last 4 years, he scored 36 goals for them over that period. And they also lost Keegan Rosenberry. They signed Sergio Santos, who's a pretty good forward from playing in Chile's first division. So he comes in to try to replace Sapong this year. But really for Philly, they didn't really have a great home. Home advantage is huge in MLS, and they didn't have a great home record last year. But they did win their first game of the year, and they made a strong U.S. Open Cup run, losing in the final to Houston. And a lot of that was based on their home play. So they kind of had a busier schedule than other teams going through that. So they're making a small tactical change this year where they're gonna try to press high and get some guys forward to the lineup. So that'll probably be a little bit of a learning curve for them. But I like Philly at home in this opening game, Drew. Big news, like I said, is Josie Altidore is not going to be playing, so Toronto's going to be struggling even more so this week. So Philly to start the year off with a win here, Drew.
Josie Altidore, remember his name from past World Cup. Fun times with him. But New York City FC minus 0.25 at Orlando City, total of 3. What do you got for this one?
Yeah, so last year, New York City, 3rd in the East. They lost to Atlanta in the conference semifinals. But I have them dropping quite a bit this year, down to battling for maybe the last playoff spot, somewhere between maybe 6th and 8th place. They lost David Villa, who's been second in goals scored in the Major League Soccer since 2015 with 77 goals. So obviously that's a big loss. They've also lost Yangel Herrera, who signed with Huesca, which is in Spain's La Liga. So both those guys up front is going to completely change the offense of this team. And they got a couple guys, Matrida and Keaton Parks, to try to come in that, are not nearly as proven as the guys that are losing. So that'll be a struggle for them this season. Orlando, they were dead last year in the East. I'm not projecting much of a difference for them this year. They're probably going to be right down there near the bottom of again. They had the worst defense in the league last year. I think they conceded 74 goals and had a minus 31 goal differential. So they did make a lot of roster changes this year. The big name is Nani coming in to help with them. He has 4 Premier League titles and a Champions League title, playing with Man United for 9 years. So he's a guy they're looking to help solidify this team. But really, their issue was on the defensive side, and he's not going to help with that. So I still see them struggling to keep teams from scoring on them, and I think they're going to have a long year. But as any new season can do, a clean slate's a good place for people to start. And I kind of like the excitement going on in Orlando for bringing Nani in, and the fact that New York has lost their big strikers up front. I think it'll take a while for New York to kind of gel this year, and Orlando, as if you look on paper, would not make a lot of sense here, but I actually like them catching a quarter of a goal here in this first game. So I think that's the play to make here in this one, Drew.
So we got another New York team here, the Red Bulls. Do they play in the same stadium, or how does that work?
So they don't, but they're 2 of the best teams in the East. Okay. But no, they don't.
And they're at Columbus, minus 0.25, total at 2.75 here, Nick.
Yeah, so the Red Bulls, they actually won the Supporters' Shield last year, which is the most points in Major League Soccer. So they were first in the East, and then they lost to Atlanta, who ultimately won the Cup last year. They lost to Atlanta in the conference finals. So it's going to be between them and Atlanta again this year. They lost Tyler Adams, who's 20-year-old United States national team player, who's going to be awesome for the American team going forward, which we certainly need the help we can get on the international side of things. He signed over in Germany in the Bundesliga, so he's a loss for them. But otherwise, they have pretty much their entire core intact for this season. They're deep on both sides of the ball. As I mentioned, they had the most points in the league. They actually set the MLS record last year with 71 points. And they're currently one of the 3 betting favorites to win the Cup this year on the market. So they really don't have any weaknesses on paper. They're just a little bit young. They haven't quite won anything yet. They've been like 1 goal short here, 1 goal short there when they needed it last year in the playoffs and in the U.S. Open Cup. But hey, those losses they'll certainly help them in the future build experience. But they're definitely going to be there at the end of the year. Columbus. They're under new ownership this year. They were talking about possibly moving away from the city, but they're staying. They finished 5th last year. They're probably going to be similar again this year. They're a really solid home team, and then struggled a little bit on the road. But really, they've had no major names leave Columbus this year. But they did lose their left back Milton Valenzuela from a torn ACL already, so that hurts their back line. But nobody else is going to be missing for them this year. And they brought in a couple guys, Waylon Francis on defense and Rubinho, who's a winger from Brazil. So, their forte over the years has been defense, and they're not a strong offensive side. They actually scored the joint lowest goals in the East last year with just 43 goals and still finished 5th and made the playoffs. So it just shows how good of a defensive team they are to be able to win games. But, having lost Valenzuela is gonna hurt them because now they're going to be, even their defense might be hurting a little bit more than they would have otherwise. So they ended up losing to the Red Bulls in the conference semifinals last year, but they did win the first leg 1-0 at home. But in this game, I see the Red Bulls really controlling the game. I think they're the team to beat, like I said, in the East this year along with Atlanta. So I like Red Bulls catching a quarter of a goal in this one, Drew.
All right, Nick. And Nick, for people that might not bet soccer or the MLS much, what sports books do you recommend? Is it widespread? Every sports book has the MLS, or is it just some?
Yeah, all the big ones out there have them. Your Pinnacle, your Chris, your Bet 365. Everybody covers the MLS. They all get out there about a week. The games are on the weekend, and they usually have the lines out on Mondays, and they're all about the same timing. So just shop. There's not one that's better than the other consistently, so it's just shopping like any other sport.
Okay. We got New England at Dallas up next. Dallas, the home favorite, minus 0.75. Total of 2.75 here, Nick.
Yeah, the New England, the Revolution. Last year they finished 8th in the East. I'm projecting them down a little bit lower this year, somewhere between 9th and 11th. What they're trying to do this year is bolster their offense. Their second-year manager, Brad Friedel, he came out saying this year that he wants more goals. But really, if you look at their numbers from last year, what really hurt them last year was terrible defense. After about the first 10 weeks of the year. So from May on, they were really, really bad on the defensive side of the ball. They actually scored the 5th most goals in the conference, but they conceded the 4th most. So I guess one style is to, if you can't stop them, just score more than them. So, Friedel, the manager, I think maybe he's missing something here and trying to help the defense a little bit, but he's trying to focus on the offense. He's brought in a couple guys, Charles Gill, Christian Pinilla, and Juan Casedo to help them offensively this year. So we'll see how it goes. I think if you don't help your defense, I don't care how much offense you bring in. It's going to be tough to win games, especially late in the season. So I'm not seeing much of an improvement from them this year. Dallas, they were 4th in the West last year. I have them kind of similar, maybe 5th or 6th this year. But they're a hard team to kind of get your handle on. They go through these weird stretches where they look great and then they look really bad. They beat good teams, they lose to bad teams. So they were good last year at home, struggled outside away from that. They had a plus 13 goal differential. And you know what? New England, they were just bad all around on the road, and New England just struggled all year, and they only had 2 wins on the road. So in this game, it's just really home strength versus away weakness. I like Dallas in this game particularly. 0.75 is a little more than I usually like to lay, but because both defenses are pretty crappy, I like the over in this game. Over 2.75 is the way I'd look at this one, Drew.
Okay, and we got another one. Well, actually, this one's just totaled at 2. Portland at Colorado. This is a pick'em, competitively priced game here, and total of 2.5.
Yeah, you look at this game on paper, especially with last year's results. You got to look at Portland to win the game. I mean, they lost in the MLS Cup last year to Atlanta. They finished fifth in the conference and made a nice playoff run. They got a ton of experience on their side with Diego Villari, Diego Chara, and Sebastian Blanco. So they're just 1 year older, but they're still as strong of a front three as anybody has in Major League Soccer. So they're going to have an interesting year, though, this year. They opened the season with 12 consecutive road games. Their stadium is undergoing some renovations, so the second half of their season will be very home-heavy. So it's all about survival here these first couple months for Portland. But Colorado, as I mentioned, like when you look at these guys on paper, they were bad last year. They were 11th in the West. I think they're going to be slightly improved this year. They're bringing in Kai Kamara and Benny Feilhaber, Feilhaber, he's a solid midfielder, and Kamara has been around a long time in the MLS scoring goals. So I think they're going to have some improvement here. They didn't really lose much, and I think those guys are going to slot right into the starting 11 this year. Colorado, they were dead last in the league with only 36 goals last year, so they really only have one way to go here, and that's hopefully up for these guys. And I think, Portland, like I said, they're going to have a tough start to the year, and I like Colorado to kind of come out with a surprising win here in this first week. And at a pick'em price, if they end up drawing the game, it's just a push on the bet. So I like taking a little risk here on Colorado in this game, Drew.
Nick, next game up, this one's in Houston, who's laying a half a goal, total of 3, and it's Salt Lake traveling there, but I'm seeing REAL in front of Salt Lake. Would that be real, or would that be Real Salt Lake?
Real, of course.
All right. I didn't know if MLS followed that.
They got to.
Okay, good stuff. Have at it, man.
All right, Salt Lake, 6th in the East last year, lost in the conference semifinals to Kansas City. They're going to be pretty much the same team we saw last year. They're probably going to finish right in that same position. They lost Danilo Acosta and Luis Silva this year, and they're bringing in a guy, Everton Luis. So, listen, they have a great and deep interchangeable attack in the league, and they have so many young players that are really capable of scoring any time. Their weakness last year was also on the back line. They had a ton of players rotating in and out, and they couldn't really solidify their defense. So because of that, there's a lot of costly defensive errors. Guys didn't know where the other guys were going to be on the field. And their big thing for Salt Lake is home field advantage. I know, other sports, you get into these high altitude type of areas, and when visiting teams come and play, they don't have the stamina, or they're not used to playing there. So that's their advantage. Of course, in this game, they're on the road at Houston, so that's gone. But Houston last year, they They were ninth in the West, missed the playoffs, and I think they're going to be similar again this year, probably maybe slightly improved, maybe 7th through ninth. So there's 7 teams that make the playoffs on each side, so they could be battling for that last spot. They salvaged their year last year by winning the U.S. Open Cup, but otherwise they had a really disappointing league year. They're strong up front. They can score goals with the best of them. But similar to Salt Lake, their defense was also their Achilles heel last year. And all signs, point to the same this year. They signed 2 guys, Figueroa and Struna, this year to try to bolster their defense, but I just don't really see a big change coming for them. We're looking at really 2 strong offenses, 2 weak defenses. So obviously we're probably looking to the over in this one, Drew. Right now it's at a 3 total. So I think 3 is easy to get to, and we would just push if it hits there. But I could see 4 or 5 goals in this one. So over in this game, Drew.
Yeah, and seeing a bunch of games totaled at 3, no game is going towards higher than 3. So that's something to keep in mind when betting the MLS as of right now. And if you're liking the over, there might be value early in the season on overs. Not sure what you think of that, Nick. But we also got Minnesota at Vancouver up next. Vancouver laying a quarter goal, total of 2.5 in this one.
Well, real quick to hit on that, Drew, you're right on the money. I mean, you will see come summertime, you're going to see totals 3.25, 3.5 in Major League Soccer pretty regularly. But right now, you're talking about just weather being a big issue. A lot of fields, especially on the East Coast. I'm right outside of Philadelphia. The fields are not in good shape, so you're going to see totals posted a little bit lower. But the guys, we still got the same guys on the pitch that know how to play and know how to get the ball around. So there is some value in some of the overs early, but you got to pick your spots and try to make sure the weather, because just like any other sport, when it's cold, it takes a while to get these guys going. So there definitely could be some value in some of these overs, but we're going to see some higher numbers as the season rolls on. So good point you bring up there. Minnesota, Vancouver. Minnesota, they were 10th in the West last year. They're one of my teams I'm projecting to have a pretty good improvement this year. I think they're going to be up there, maybe as high as 6th this year, definitely battling for a playoff spot. Again, the theme today is talking about bad defenses. They had one of the worst. Only one team, Orlando, gave up more goals than them last year. They signed 4 pretty big names to bolster their defense this year. They got Ike Opara they traded for. They added another defensive midfielder, Alonso. They acquired Arsenal's former goalkeeper, Manoni. And they have a fullback from France's League One in Romain Mettenmeyer. So they got 4 pretty big names that they're going to try to really solidify that defense. And those guys are all really slated to start right from week 1. So I'm kind of excited to watch these guys improve this year. I think they will be better. Obviously, they can't get much worse defensively than they were last year. Vancouver, on the other hand, I kind of have them switching places with Minnesota. They were 8th last year, but I have them kind of down near the bottom this year, possibly 11th or 12th, really, in the conference. Let's just say they're brand new teams. They got 15 new players on the team, and 21 players from last year's team are gone. So they just wanted a complete overhaul. They were really struggling last year, and they, this was the best way to do it. They wanted to start from the beginning, bring in young players, get rid of the contracts and stuff they didn't really want to have this year. So anytime you have this going on, you got team chemistry and playability with each other. Who knows how these guys are going to start the year? It's obviously going to take them some time to get used to one another. And I don't think they're going to have a really good year at all this year. It's going to take a season, maybe more, to kind of get them where they want to and understand what they're going to need after a complete roster makeover. So I like Minnesota getting the plus quarter of a goal here with their much improved defense, and I think that's the way to play this one, Drew.
Okay, we got Chicago at the LA Galaxy up next. The LA Galaxy, one of the more famous names in the MLS, minus a half a goal at home, total of 3.
So Chicago, a team I think is going to be also improved this year. They were 10th last year, and I kind of have them coming right into that playoff mix again this year, maybe 6th, 7th, or 8th place this year, trying to get in the last playoffs. We'll hit it again. Defense was their issue. They also had some injuries last year that were a problem for them, but they have a front 6, that is good as anyone in Major League Soccer with Schweinsteiger, Nikolic, Katai. So if they can really get their defense in line, they could see a marked improvement. They brought in Marcello, David Osted, and a Polish player, midfielder, Frankowski, this year, all to help them with that back line. So I think they have a good chance at some improving this year. They got guys that know how to play. They finished third in 2017, so they definitely have the talent. The Galaxy, they were seventh in the West last year, just missing the playoffs, but I think we're going to see them improve this year, third or fourth. Really, what you want to know about this team is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Are you familiar with that name, Drew?
I've heard it, but that's about it.
Okay, all right. So this guy is he's what's the word? I mean, he's a force for sure, but he's like very intimidating on the field. He's big guy. Came from Man United, played with them for years. He came in last year and played 27 games. So didn't play the first 7 games of the year, but played the 27 games for the Galaxy. He scored 22 goals. Just a couple weeks ago, he made a big statement saying he was going to break every record in Major League Soccer. So you can understand all the haters out there can't wait for him to fail, but he's good. He was a famous name on the European stage for a long time. And I think 1 year of Major League Soccer under his belt, he's going to be that much better this year. So they also have good supporting attackers around him, and they also have a new manager that they're going to be playing around. So it might take a little time to get used to his style, but I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, and I'm excited to see what Zlatan does as his predictions go. But I like the over in this one, Drew. Both teams, again, bad defenses and really good front lines, and there should be plenty of chances on both sides of the ball here.
Nick, we got Cincinnati, Seattle. You got a free play on. We also got Montreal at San Jose. San Jose pick'em, total at 2.75. So what do you got in that one?
So yeah, Montreal, San Jose. Montreal last year they were seventh, just missed the playoffs, but I think they're going to be a little bit better this year. 4th to 6th place is my projection for them. I think they're a possible surprise team. They added a trio of attackers this year to support their star Ignacio Piatti. They played great in the second half of last year, and they returned the bulk of that squad this year. They went 10-4-5 over their last 19 games and fell just short of the playoffs. They had a really terrible start to the year, so I think they got good momentum to build on this year. San Jose was dead last in the West last year. I don't see a lot different this year. They really didn't have any cap room this offseason to do much, so they really don't have a lot coming in. They do have one guy, Christian Espinosa, who's on loan from Villarreal in La Liga. So he's a promising young winger. But otherwise, they really haven't changed the roster too much. They were really, 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 really bad on defense. They had league low 4 wins last year, which the next 3 teams lowest on that list were Chicago, Orlando, and Colorado. They all had 8, so it just shows how bad they were last year with just 4 wins on the year. The only concern here is Montreal traveling, across the country to play in California. But they're just a much better team than San Jose, and I really don't see them losing this game. So I think the safe bet is Montreal as a pick'em. And again, if they draw this game, it's just a push on the bet. It may also be worth throwing a few bucks on the money line for Montreal, which is around plus 175 right now. But I like Montreal here, Drew.
Okay. And, guys, if you want to read in-depth analysis on Cincinnati at Seattle, I recommend it on sportsmemo.com. You can see Nick's free play up there. For the sake of time, we'll move on to Sunday's card. We got 2 games real quick, Nick. Atlanta, the defending champions in the MLS, at the DC United. Pick 'em price here, total of 3.
Atlanta, awesome. They're just awesome to watch. Their big news this year was the loss of Miguel Almiron, who was transferred to Newcastle in the Premier League in January. So, huge player that really opened up the door for their star, Joseph Martinez. So, he's a big loss for them. But they did sign a possibly as good of, if not better player in the long run, Pity Martinez, who comes from South America. He's actually the reigning 2018 South American Player of the Year. So they're probably not going to miss much of a beat losing Almiron, even though he's such a good player for them. They also are changing managers. Tata Martino, who won the Cup for Atlanta last year, he was homesick and wanted to move back to Argentina, basically. So they brought in a new manager who has Champions League experience as a player for Ajax, winning it before. So they got young players, they got veterans, they got stars in their prime. And they play at the best stadium in Major League Soccer. So Atlanta is definitely going to be a team to possibly repeat this year. DC, they are solid. They finished 4th last year. All eyes are on Wayne Rooney as he's going to embark on his first full season in Major League Soccer. He joined DC last year, halfway through the season, and really brought them from, I think they were second to last in the standings, and brought them all the way into the playoffs. They were benefited by the fact that they had a very home-heavy schedule at the second half of the season, and Rooney only had to go out of the Eastern time zone just one time in 20 games. So a lot of people are kind of questioning, how is he going to be in a full Major League Soccer? Because his past is from he played in the Premier League for years. So in England you're traveling short distances between towns. So and playing in the United States obviously a lot different. So this is really one of the toughest games for me to predict, just because both teams can be so good at times, and DC is really, really good at home. I think it's best to avoid this match, but this is definitely one I recommend you watch. It'll definitely be on TV, and this will be a good one to sit down, have some popcorn, and watch the MLS opening weekend here.
All right, Nick, and he's 15-10 in soccer on his 5% plays, 61%. We also got in PGA, he's got some ready to go for. Or do you have PGA up for this weekend yet?
Yeah, I'm actually putting it up just shortly after we finish this pod, so I'll have it up here shortly by the time this goes.
Okay, and all PGA picks 62% on the year. Soccer totals at 56%. Soccer best bets 4 and 5% plays, 93 and 74, 56% for Nick. He's also got his MLS 1 month special. No coupon code needed from the podcast, anything like that. $99, you get 1 full month of MLS plays from Nick. And, opening month, I've said it with many sports, it's the best time to bet sports in most cases is in the beginning. Nick finishes off 1 game left here. KC at Los Angeles FC, -0.5 goal at home, total of 3.
Yeah, this should be another great game. 2 of the best teams in the West. LA finished third last year. Kansas City was first. And I think they're both going to be they're 2 of the top 3 teams in the West again this year. Kansas City has multiple goal scorers. They don't really have a true playmaking striker on the roster, but they can score from both sides of the wings. And they really have one of the best offenses in the league, even without that number 1 guy. They were the best road team in the West last year. Like I said, these 2 teams are just going to be battling it out all year long. Los Angeles, they lost 2 guys, Benny Feilhaber and Marco Urania, but otherwise they have one of the best core groups of guys that's really in Major League Soccer. And other than those 2, everybody's back from last year. The talent up and down the roster is just phenomenal with Carlos Vela, Walker Zimmerman. They are as good as possible. Definitely, these 2 Sunday games, honestly, are the 2 best games of the week, in my opinion. And this is just another one that's pretty tough to pick a side here. Kansas City catching the half a goal is definitely the one that makes more sense, but I'm probably going to keep my money on the sideline on Sunday on both of these games just because I think I'd rather just sit back, watch them, and enjoy. I don't see a huge edge on either side, and I think they're going to be really trying to figure out how these teams are going to look the rest of the year is all I'm going to be trying to do with these games on Sunday. But should be another good game. 2 of the best teams in the West for sure.
All right, good stuff, Nick. And guys, make sure to check out sportsmemo.com. He's got his $99 1 month opening month package at ML on the MLS at sportsmemo.com. So make sure to check that out. Good deal there. No coupon code needed. And thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow talking with Teddy Covers, NBA betting board.
What's the best thing about podcasts? It's that you can still listen to them during cream egg hunting season. Hunt down the rare white cream egg and be in with a chance to win a sweet prize of up to €10,000. Join us, fellow cream egg hunters, and find out more by visiting Cadbury Ireland on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to the Ford Innovate 191 sales event, driving better SUV value for you. Take the incredible Ford Kuga, featuring Ford Sync with touchscreen, smartphone mirroring, leather trim, and key-free system. And right now, you can order a 191 Ford Kuga with an amazing 7-year warranty, 7-year roadside assistance, and 2 years free servicing. All from just €28,450. Ford Innovate, driving better value for you. See it for yourself at your local participating Ford dealer. Offer ends February 28th. Ford. Go further. Price excludes delivery and related charges. Terms and conditions apply. See Ford.ie for details.